Good afternoon, citizens of Portsmouth, everyone in attendance, our city staff, certainly our citizens who are joining us online. Welcome to our public work session for today, January 27, 2026. I'm going to take a moment to acknowledge our city manager, Mr. Stephen Carter, and also our interim city attorney, Challenger, and today we have with us Deputy City Clerk, Ms. Anita. That all being said, Anita, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Ms. Bryant.
Present.
Dr. Dawson.
Here.
Mr. Hugel.
Present.
Vice Mayor Moody.
Here.
Ms. Thomas. Mr. Tillage.
Here.
Mayor Glover.
Here. Thank you, ma'am. And Mr. Carter, would you please, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mayor. Have three items for us to talk about this evening. First is going to be the Police Department Quarterly Crime Statistics Update, followed by Portsmouth United Update, and then we're going to talk briefly about what the school board retreat agenda should look like. I do have some information that was input from the school, so I have some input on that. But as we get started, Chief Jenkins back there? Yeah, there he is. All right. Chief Jenkins is going to come in, and we're going to talk about some crime stats. But we kind of figured that, based on things that's happening in our community right now, just to stand before you and say crime is down is probably not the right thing to do. We will touch on some crime statistics, but really we're going to focus on some other things that's going on in our community, what we're doing to try to address those things, and give you an opportunity to kind of have a question and answer about some of the recent events that's going on. So, Chief Jenkins.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everybody. So as Mr. Carter said, I'm not going to stand here and give you a lot of statistical numbers on what we did last year. Unfortunately, what comes to mind is the old Janet Jackson song, "What Have You Done For Me Lately?" And that kind of is reminiscent of what, we're not living off of what happened in 2025. We're really focusing on what's going on in 2026. So before you do have your numbers, we will talk about some things more in depth, and this information will be put online and for the citizens who are out. One of the things that we'll be doing going forward is our community forums will be on a monthly basis within the community, locations to be announced at various places, and where we'll specifically dive into question and answer conversations rather than our old format of doing the quarterly forums down at police administration. We're actually going to be going into the community. So to start, we're going to talk about NIBRS, the National Incident Based Reporting System, and so how this is classified. Our reports are classified into Group A and Group B offenses: homicide, assault, robbery, and kidnappings, as you see, with property crimes, and then such as burglary and arsons, and then the B crimes are societal crimes, your crimes of narcotics, gambling, prostitution, things of that nature. And so one of the things with the way NIBRS reports is that all of the crimes, the way that they were reported previously under UCR, is the most significant crime is what would be captured. Under the NIBRS report, it allows for all of the crimes to be captured under one incident, and allows for police departments to be able to track those crimes and connect them better, to be able to see those clusters that occur. Again, as it says, NIBRS records each offense. There are over 50 categories, offenses that fall into 24 categories, and then we use what we call Power BI, which is similar to what you would see on our public-facing dashboard, is how we capture those numbers based off of our reported crimes and CADs, and so they're auto-populated. So what the citizens would see is the same thing we would see when we go in and put date ranges and things of that nature. So our crime against persons, as you can see, the rates of fall between that and over the last quarter, it gave us an overall reduction of 17%. And again, that time frame was on October 1st until December 31st. As you look at our next slide, specifically crimes against persons, again, you can look at the numbers associated with that 11.7% reduction throughout those numbers. Obviously, when you look at our numbers specifically for the deaths we had, and during that quote, you can see that there was a reduction during that time frame as well. For our crimes against property, again, 20.3% reduction, with our main drivers being larceny and theft. And then crimes against society, we did have some increases as it relates to animal cruelty, calls, narcotics, again, continues to be a challenge, and then some reports as it relates to pornography and obscene material. Weapons laws, violations, and things of that nature were down, and it gave us an overall reduction of 2.8% for crimes against persons during that time frame. Overall, as you can see, this is again our overall numbers for that time frame of October to December 31st, and again, biggest drivers of that reduction were the larceny and thefts. For as it relates to our 2025, again, numbers were very good during that time frame. 44% reduction in deaths during that time during 2025, and again, trended in the right way. Of course, again, we're focusing right now on what's going on right now in 2026, and that will be what we talk about quite a bit as we roll into our next part of our presentation. Just some highlights of some of the things that we continue to focus on. We really drove down and dug down into our brandishing of firearms, those situations when one person points a gun at another, and obviously it doesn't end in any type of incident, but the incident was enough for a person to report. We really drilled down on that and increased our clearance rate of those, which we attribute to some of that reduction that we experienced in the latter part of the year. And so we're going to continue along with doing that. This is our 3-year average, 2022 to 2025. As you can see, overall, we're looking at a 55% reduction as it relates to what our numbers look like. Again, favorable overall, but again, it's difficult to stand here and have that conversation today. So again, this is just another overall reduction as we look at our numbers as it relates to robberies, violent crimes, homicides, overall crime, and what we're looking like. So just again, some highlights of some of the accomplishments we did. We focused on last year launching our public-facing crime dashboard. We were successfully able to get all of our Virginia crime intel networks, terminals under CJIS compliance for multi-factor authentication, which was a mandate, and we were successful in doing that. We launched our public-facing Power Engage dashboard, which sends out notifications to individuals, inviting them to take surveys and provide us information on how we're doing, and as we continue to look for ways to improve. We've identified the locations for our downtown area and the expansion to include our Links district that we hope to be able to get up and running here in 2026. As we look at again, based on our current staffing, this one is actually really good to report. Is that we increased our response time by 27% for priority 1 and 2 calls, and our priority 3 calls response time increased by 39%, allowing us to do more traffic stops, foot patrols, and other field interviews. Again, allowing us to stay focused on consistent service. So again, that is testament to the officers who are out there right now working, trying to make a difference. Again, certification in peer support, again, very huge for just the overall mental health of the department. Obviously, today's workforce is a lot different than what we remember. Our folks are requiring a lot more of us as employers as they navigate some of the most traumatic experiences. And this certification in peer support is vital in helping us to be able to provide resources for ourselves internally. We launched an internal wellness app where it allows our individual officers and sworn and civilians to be able to have mental health treatment and conversations with folks right in the palm of their hand. We've strengthened ties with Portsmouth United, and we'll talk about that more. We have a stellar national night out, and we promoted 5 new sergeants and 2 lieutenants to expand our supervisory deployment in 2025. Obviously, won't spend much time on Kalia. We've talked about it. I'm very glad that we got it. 152 years to get it. It will be a staple meal of our department going forward. And again, we look for opportunities for us to build on that. Our 2026 goals. And again, I put this out here because this is how not only I hold myself accountable, but my officers, and we'll hold each other accountable when we let folks know what our intents are. And so we're looking for to do an 8% reduction in crime for 2026 versus 2028 property crime, violent crime numbers. And again, we're going to be looking at those through our monthly benchmarks and comparing those numbers through command reviews. We've really drilled down on some realistic numbers on what our goals are so far as getting our staff back up to full staffing. And we didn't just look at the sworn side. We also took the opportunity to really drill down on our support staff who really are vital to us in getting things done. So we're really aiming for a 200 strength, getting up to a 200 strength officers, which will give us, we're looking somewhere between 20 and 25 for 2026, and 95 strength for our professional support staff. The launch of the Police Foundation, again, which is good. The implementation of the volunteers program, which I got some favorable news on that so far as our policy, third-party policy as relates, will help shore that initiative up. We're looking to become a certified crime prevention city, and again, that encompasses the entire city, not just the police department, with certain qualifications. And so we'll be reaching out to the civic leagues to help us with this initiative. Some of it includes neighborhood watch and fortification of your neighborhoods, lighting, and all of those things to kind of help with that. We're working internally on a dedicated media team to help us get our word out a little bit more. And again, implementing a vehicle operations panel internally for us to review how we operate our vehicles on a day-to-day. And finally, we're working on building the bench, is creating a succession plan, a pathway forward for those folks that are in the ranks to understand what it is going to take for them to get to the next level. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to kind of, unless you have something pressing, I'll let Ms. Matthews come up and do her presentation, and then we'll take questions at the end, if that's okay.
Sounds good, Chief.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very cool. That's a good idea.
Welcome, Ms. Matthews.
Thanks for having me. Good evening, everybody.
You might have to speak up just a little bit.
Okay, is this better?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. This is fuzzy. Okay, so I'm glad y'all have the copy in front of you. So before I start presenting on Portsmouth United's fiscal year 25, I just want to give some thank yous to folks that are in the room. I want to start off by thanking Chief Jenkins for his support this year. I came in new, having a little bit of experience with this work, but there's been a lot of patience, a lot of understanding. I want to thank our Crime Commission as well. They have really asked the right questions, steered Portsmouth United in a direction that we like where we're going. And then to kind of switch topics slightly, I want to thank the members of our violence intervention team. It's a new team for being here today. They were out working very hard over the weekend, and I just want to thank them for their presence today and all the work that they've been doing in the community. Want to shout them out. So Safer Communities 2025, the focus of, and let me pull up my talking points because I forgot to print them out. Hold on, here we go. So Safer Communities, the goal of our program is really to address the underlying causes of violence and to do that in a community setting. So we are talking about trauma, disengaged youth. We're talking about economic instability. These are the things that Portsmouth United was built to address those in the community with the community. So we're saying, okay, these are the set of challenges the community has. We're going to work together to resolve these. We're going to bring resolution together. So the impact at a glance, we had over 23 community partnerships. These are the mini grants that went out. And within that, we were able to reach over 10, these are unique numbers, over 10,659 participants, and we served folks ages 4 to 60. We did work in the neighborhoods and juvenile detention centers, so we even served our youth that were out of the city in juvenile detention. We worked in community spaces and schools. Wherever there were people who had a need, Portsmouth United had some sort of touch point there throughout this fiscal year 25. We made a huge effort to make sure we were partnering with our community partners on that reach, but also engaging private partners, people who weren't funded by Portsmouth United. An example, you'll see this later, but Big Homies was a huge partner for us. We collaborated on a lot this year, even though they aren't funded directly with these funds. It's just talking about why. So the funding was directed to these community orgs with the goal of decreasing and preventing gun violence. That was the key thing we were looking at. We focused on areas. Crisis stabilization and healing, community awareness, community partnerships, violence interruption, and faith-based engagement. So I wanted to kind of clear something up because we're in year 2, because fiscal year 25 is year 2 of the funds being allocated to the city. But if we're talking about operations and we're talking about a program that's up and running, 2025 really was year 1. So we received the funds, we had little direction from the state when those funds were given to us, and then year 2, the state gave us more direction, and that's when I came into the position, and we were able to say, these are the areas that we need to make sure we're targeting to have a holistic program and build out our CVI ecosystem. To accomplish those goals, we funded 23 community-based organizations, and those are the organizations there. I'll try to shout some of them out. YMCA, they had an awesome summer program where they specifically had reduced or free gym memberships for the summer months. Impact did a lot of work with crisis stabilization, helping families when there was a need that they could easily get to them, easily help them with food, clothing. We'll talk a little bit about Edward Brown Foundation later. They were in our schools. New Steps Foundation did mobile mentorship. So if there was a family that had a child that was really having a hard time with behavior, he would say, you know what, I'm going to pull up. I'm going to go to them. I'm not going to give them any excuse. I'm going to coach them. I'm going to talk to them, get a plan for them, partner with their parents to help them figure out what are the next steps. Within this system, there are prevention, intervention, and treatment. The way this is supposed to work, and this was certainly a learning curve, was, let's say an organization did prevention work. So they're with individuals that are not involved, but they are at risk for having involvement in violence. Let's say they were working with a kid, and then that kid started just doing stuff they weren't supposed to do. They get a gun. That person that's doing prevention may not be equipped to really work with that child after that point. They're supposed to be referring to an organization that does intervention work, that has the skills to be able to do so. They're supposed to be referring to like a give back to the block, right? That referral happens, they work with that child, and then the next step is treatment. So we're getting that child and that family stabilized. Sometimes it requires us to move them out of the city. Sometimes it requires us to move them out of the city and still, hold their hand and make sure we're connecting them with resources outside of the city, because sometimes things spill over from other cities, right? So just because that person moved doesn't mean that the situation doesn't still require us to have hands on it. Community of change. In this model, they were providing a lot of the treatment, so the therapy support and things like that was coming from community of change. So I wanted to just give you that flow chart as we were talking through this. So even within that treatment, intervention, and prevention, we had these areas that were funded. A lot of youth development and mentorship was happening. Education, exposure, and enrichment, workforce development, economic stability. These are all the things that were happening. We even, with our crisis stabilization program, which you'll hear about in a minute, we even were able to help people get into programs. The trucking program, like we were able to connect people with the resources to get them to have some incentive to change things around. And we were doing that not just with people who were right here. No, we're talking about high risk, getting them engaged, helped calm down whole neighborhoods. So a lot of that work was happening in conjunction with Get Back to the Block. Mental health, healing, and family support. When I first started in this role, one of the first situations that I encountered was a mom who had lost her son to gun violence. Her younger son was getting involved in some stuff too. And what really helped them was not just relocating them and giving them a fresh start, but also connecting them with mental health and healing support. Because mom had went a long time with no type of, she didn't process what happened. And she was afraid she was going to lose her younger son. Yeah. And truth be told, that was a real reality in that situation. We relocated them. Son is on honor roll. Son is working. Think he graduates. He graduates next year. So these are things that are happening. These are the stories that happen when people are doing the work. The community engagement and violence interruption, this is one section of the work, especially the violence interruption work, part of the work that we are starting that now in this year, but the groundwork started in fiscal 25. So one thing that I count as a big win is, and I'll attribute this to working closely with Chief Jenkins, we used to have reset walks. So some of y'all remember the reset walks that took place within the police department. Those have transitioned to community response events. So this puts ownership on our community so that we can come together and heal together and respond together. When we have those events, we're not just stopping in and saying this shouldn't happen here. We are leaving a footprint. we're following up with Brave Spaces, which is a therapeutic space. We had to have someone come down and train us on how to operate those spaces, but we're leaving them with resources. We're connecting them with faith-based support. And we are showing a united front that healing is going to happen together. We're able to come alongside families that have experienced loss and meet them where they are. Sometimes you'll see a response event doesn't happen. Most of the time is because the family is not interested in that event, because we don't want to move out of step with the family for whatever reason. But when you see a community response event, I want to thank y'all for always showing up and providing just the support to those communities. Sometimes we don't have them, and I'll get a call and say, when is it? So I appreciate that. We were able to touch a majority of our elementary schools. Churchland Middle School, this expanded this year to Craddock Middle School, and all of our high schools except for Churchland High School. Our neighborhoods, those are neighborhoods that were reached in the work that we were doing as well. So we did have a good reach. Talking through some of our community collaborations, want to definitely shout out Intervention Strategy Group. They've been working with us with our violence interruption work. Cuts YEP and Big Homies helped us when we were mapping out our youth employment plan with Give Back to the Block and Footprint Foundation. And we work closely with Portsmouth Public Schools to, figure out how we're going to provide interventions in the schools. And it was a challenge trying to figure out how to do it, but we were able to find a middle ground, and that came about with Edward Brown Foundation. Want to offer thanks to all of the media outlets that highlighted positive stories from Portsmouth United throughout this fiscal year. Next year that list will grow, but we had a lot of good positive engagement with the media. Peace Week. So Peace Week was an undertaking. It was one of those things that it was like, we need to do this, and we didn't have a ton of time, but it really came together as a staple within Portsmouth United. Peace Week really focused on making sure our youth and our adults, because it wasn't just for the youth, had positive interactions, positive things to do during spring break. So this is a best practice. During times where school is out, it can create windows where violence can take place. So we wanted to make sure from the start of spring break to the finish of spring break that there was something to do during spring break. We took that a step further. Actually, I'll talk about this because this was kind of the bridge between Safe Summer and that little bit of time. We had an art mural project in conjunction with Virginia Center for Public Safety. We partnered with IC Norcom, and we had youth that needed to be engaged. And that was a challenge. I want to shout out Zakia and Dante. They worked with those kids. It was days when we met on Tuesdays and Saturdays. It was days I was trying to get out the office because those kids were something, but they ended up doing a great job. They very creative, very rambunctious, a lot of bright futures in art. But they definitely gave us all a run for our money. And if you were able to see the mural, you saw the amazing job they did. If not, stop by 206, you'll be able to see it. In conjunction with the art mural, we were able to do a Stop the Violence art campaign or art contest with IC Norcom art students. We had over 30 youth participate, and we unveiled the mural the same day we did the art contest. I'll talk a little bit about crisis stabilization. Certainly within crisis stabilization, I will say it is it's hard work, not hard work, but heart work. And it takes up a bulk of time and energy from our team. It is a collective effort many times between Portsmouth United and the police department, trying to figure out, okay, we're relocating a family. Is it going to be safe for them to go here? Sometimes we're relocating people outside the state. But it's not just relocations, it's also funeral assistance so that people don't have to worry about the cost. It's also critical incident response. It falls under stabilization, but it really is something separate. So that's where a gap exists. We don't have a comprehensive crisis response. A comprehensive crisis response looks like an incident taking place and someone showing up to provide care in that moment, not following up with them the next day. It's literally providing care right there on the spot, which can be very important when we talk about things like retaliation, right? We have our violence interruption team. This weekend, they were with people, took them out the city, calmed people down, right? But for people who are hurting in that moment, they may not want to leave that vicinity, right? So we need to figure out how we can do critical incident response in addition to crisis stabilization, because response is more immediate. We did have a Safe Summer program, similar to Peace Week. This is when you typically see a spike in violence, especially with the youth. We funded over 20 programs and camps, and these are just some I wanted to highlight on here. YMCA team memberships was a big deal. We were able to expand that from just one site, the site that's on Elm, to the site that's in Churchland as well. The biggest takeaway from Safe Summer, which we're going to expand this summer, is that we had a youth employment program. And we were very intentional about who those youth were that we employed. These youth came from Dale's Home, Southside, London Oaks, and we were able to not just give them employment for 6 weeks, but we were also able to give them some skills. We talked through, like, how do you manage a conflict? How do you budget this money that you're getting? How can you find ways to give back to your community? So there was a lot of, because we had some really hot days and we had some rainy days. On those hot days and on those rainy days, they were either at the sheriff's department or they were at 206 High Street getting other skills, and they were really locked in. They were really engaged in what was happening because they saw that we were investing in them. Another signature program I wanted to highlight from the 23 organizations that were mentioned was Edward Brown Foundation. A lot of times the barrier to doing programs in the schools is, especially when we're talking about engaging our more high-risk, at-risk youth, is the schools want you to be able to pass a background check. So some of my VIs can't go into the school just willy-nilly, right? In addition to that, they are also looking for a specific type of curriculum, and because it's the school system, they value a certain they value the pedigree, they value the resume. So Edward Brown Foundation is really built up of some guys that grew up in London Oaks. All of them, I don't know how this happened, but all of them went to get degrees in the mental health field. They came back to Portsmouth and said, we want to give back, and then they created Edward Brown Foundation. So they go into the schools. They primarily at New Directions right now, and I think they just expanded to Craddock, but for fiscal 25 they were in New Directions. And they were able to build relationships with 15 youth that were in the schools, and they were able to track their progression. Really strong program, really excited about the work they're doing. I also want to highlight Catch More Kids. There's a theory that if most people could get just 10 seconds of their life back, they wouldn't be, like people who are incarcerated, if they could get 10 seconds back, they wouldn't be incarcerated. It's a decision they made in 10 seconds. So what Catch More Kids does is they help with emotion regulation and conflict resolution, and they do this think tank at J.E. Parker. So they're meeting with our youth. They're going to the juvenile detention centers, and they're having conversations with our youth that are in other cities. And they do a great job of documenting that. I do want to shout out Catch More Kids. They have great documentation too. So this is a snapshot of where we spent our funds for fiscal year 25. It will look very different in fiscal year 26 because we now have a violence interruption program that program costs money, right? We were just building it out, so not a ton of funds went there, but almost 60% of our funds went to the Portsmouth United mini grants, small percentage to stabilization, small percentage to technical assistance. That bulk came from the mini grants, the work that was happening in the community with our community partners. These are just some pictures of things that happened. We took some youth to a trip to James Madison University. I was a chaperone. That was very interesting. But it was a really good trip. They learned about being a leader. They learned about their options, if they wanted to go to college, if they don't want to go to college. It was a really good, trip. We were able to partner with TRIO to help them with our youth that were transitioning from Norcom to college. And we had Peace Fest, which ended and rounded out our Peace Week of events. As we move forward, I'll go through these really quick. I probably could talk about these all day. Our violence intervention teams are now front line. They're operating. They're still in training, so they aren't quite 100% operational, but they're able to go out and respond. There's going to be a huge focus on this year, making sure our violence interruption team is equipped. And not only that, but we do need to expand to other sites. So we followed the data and said, okay, incidents are happening here. We're going to set up our sites here. So we're in Prentice Park, Dales Home, Southside, and London Oaks. If we had the funding to expand, we would be in Hamilton Place and Seaboard. Those would be our next sites. And then there's a spot in Churchland that we would need to expand to as well. Safe Passage, our school bus safety program in conjunction with Give Back to the Block, launches in February. Project 180 is a reentry and success support program. So it's going to be focusing on our folks who are coming home. How can we support them? How can we make sure that they aren't re-entering the system? There's going to be some other initiatives happening with reentry and support. The main one, though, is Project 180. Mobile app is finally done. Marketing for that is rolling out. There's going to be a huge focus on training and capacity building for our community partners. So for our nonprofit organizations, we don't know when the funding for Safer Communities is going to run dry because these are state funds, right? So we want to make sure our organizations are in a position where they can apply for other funds and that they have, the capacity for that, and they're able to tell their story in a way that would provoke a funder to fund them. In addition to that, there's a lot of training around reporting. We want to make sure they're able to tell that narrative, not only for the sake of them being able to tell their story, but for Portsmouth United to be able to tell our story. We're expanding our domestic violence prevention and intervention work. We did focus on domestic violence services. You see that's a trend in community violence intervention. A lot of cities are moving their domestic violence work under their CVI because what we're seeing nationally is like an uptick in domestic violence incidents. And if your gun violence prevention program and a lot of your gun violence is coming from domestic violence incidents, you have to address it within that CVI framework. And then we are looking at a more targeted approach to how we fund our community partners. Next year, the funding will look like I'm going to be asking for more partnerships between the community partners. So that way we're not funding 4 organizations that are doing reading programs. I want those organizations that are doing good work to come together, come up with a plan, and then they work together and we fund those initiatives and those efforts. If someone's doing intervention work, we want it to be more of a collaborative effort so that it can be more targeted and that our ecosystem has a better flow. I think that's the end of it. So I'll ask Chief to come up here and we'll answer our questions together.
So I'll start by saying, if you remember 2023 and 2024, council meeting after council meeting, we would have persons come up screaming about doing something, that the city needed to do something. The community was hurting, and rightly so. And so I did something. I started Portsmouth United. I reached out to the community and said, we as a city need everyone to be engaged about what we're doing and to be intentional about, if you want to change this city, you need to get involved, not just talk, not just sit at home and post on social media. Get engaged and talk and do something. And so us being where we are, even in our infancy, right now shows that there is growth. Last night we had our first kickoff for our domestic violence initiative that we're doing. Again, another initiative that was not here in our city, looking for gaps and filling them. And there's so many opportunities for folks to get engaged and get involved. And we talked about a lot of stuff, but the police department is doing what the police department does. We're identifying those folks that are causing harm, and we're arresting them, and we're putting them in jail. And guess what? We're letting the system play out as it goes. The police department's function and role in this has never changed. The part that has changed is we can't accept everything as we're responsible for everything. The community plays a huge part in what we do. And frankly, they should have never been shut out in the first place. So now they have a seat at the table to be able to fix the issues that affect their community. And that's what we're doing. So for all of the folks that have ideas, bring them. And let's talk about them. Let's figure out how we can get those gaps filled within the community. I think Mr. Matthews did a very good job pointing out where those dollars are going, because that often comes up. So we want to be able to be transparent and show you where those dollars are going, so that we can answer those questions. We are really being focused on what we do, because these opportunities may not come back, and we want to be able to start transitioning so that Portsmouth can be self-reliant. So I'll take any questions, but I thought I needed to put that part in before I did. Yes.
Thank you, Chief. Great job. Thank you, Ms. Matthews.
I just want to thank you. This is a great program. Of all the things that a city can do or be a part of, this is something that I 100% support. Especially coming from someone like myself who grew up as an at-risk kid myself at one point. You're giving people an opportunity. You can't always control what they do with the opportunity, but you're giving them an opportunity. You're letting them know that there's these different opportunities for them to do better. I heard you say James Madison University. I used to live in Baltimore. I used to work with kids in Baltimore. There were so many kids who never left a certain section of the city. So to give them the opportunity to see this is what a college campus looks like. We talk about public safety, that's public safety. You're giving a person an opportunity to see another reality, have mentors, and to see a future that's greater than what they can see right there. So again, I just want to applaud you for doing this. This is personally for me one of the best things I've heard and seen since I've been here. So again, 100% kudos.
Councilman Hugo.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So I have comments and questions. I'll start with Ms. Matthews in Portsmouth United. So comment, you mentioned the shift from reset walks to community response walks. I want to commend you for doing that. I did a bunch of reset walks with the police department, and I think all of us that are on those walks were wondering, how do we get the community to engage with us? There were times, I think, that people were home and they didn't answer the door because there was a police officer standing at the door and they just didn't want to answer the door. So to move from that to the community response walks with regular people, engage in the community. We actually are seeing the community come out and join in those efforts. And so I think that's really a positive step. You mentioned the CBI program. I know you briefed the Crime Commission on CBI program. So we have 4 teams kind of targeted at 4 communities, but then you mentioned this past weekend the issue that we had wasn't in any of those 4 communities. So can you talk a little bit about how the violence interrupters get pulled into whatever's going on, wherever it's going on?
Yeah. So after an incident of violence, right, they still deploy because something that happened in one neighborhood could impact their focus area. So we wouldn't want them to not know what's happening in that situation, and then it turns around and impacts them in their focus area. So some of it is we're deploying to make sure there's no retaliation and to help people stay calm. Some of it is care, where they're there providing care. So like literally on Friday night, whole team deployed. Whole team of 10 people were out. And we were taking people to other cities, get them calm. You know, those type of things are happening when a violent incident occurs. So just because they're in that focus area, they're serving the whole city. Those are just our focus areas.
Okay, I'd like to add to that, please,
Yeah.
too. So, because I want to make sure that the community knows this, most importantly. These folks don't work for the police department. Okay, they're not police officers. They're another section of public safety, violence interrupters that are out doing their thing, right? But let me paint another picture for you. Here we were on scene dealing with the incident from Saturday, the homicide where the 5-month-old was shot. The officers, including myself that was out there, had a very hard time just getting the scene calmed down. We were able to get the violence interrupters to come out, and if they could just address the community and the family, then we could focus on the investigation. And that was huge, because again, these are 2 people, same agenda, but in competing interests. So we could focus on what we needed to focus on, and they could focus on getting the community in out of harm's way, and we don't have that tension between police and the community during that time, because emotions are up. And oftentimes the focal point of those emotions are the police department, because guess what? Their loved one is on the ground. They don't understand what's going on. They looking for answers. And you know, I didn't tell the family, you know, the baby was going to be okay. I told one of the interrupters who filtered that information. And again, that part was good for us to be able to do. And so that is the benefit of that partnership. You know, it's a one-way street. We talk to them, they don't talk to us, all right? And folks need to understand that. It's a one-way street, right? We understand what this looks like. And so I want to put that out there, because these folks that are out here in the community, their lives are in jeopardy just as much as anybody else. We're asking them to engage the most violent individuals within the city. We're asking them to go out and talk to the gang members, the shooters, the pill poppers, and all this other stuff. We're asking them to do that. And so when we get those conversations and folks say, oh, I saw your person over here talking to it, that's what we ask them to do, right? Does it look like traditional law enforcement and policing or public safety? No, it's not. But guess what? We've been doing something one way for a long time, and I can show you stats from 1975, and guess what? The stats are the same right now as they were in 75. So we're looking at something different. And again, I just needed to put that out there where we were.
Yeah, thanks, Chief.
Because I'm glad you cleared that up.
So you mentioned that you'd like to put teams in 3 other communities. That's 6 more CBIs or something like that, right?
Yeah, so I would say we probably need to be, I would like to double what we're doing
Okay.
by this time next year. But if I talk through immediate need, and Chief Jenkins, please jump in, there are 3 other communities that I think would need that support immediate. And we do have someone on the team that floats. So if something really was happening in a neighborhood, we could pair them up with someone and get them to, but it's just not the same as having someone in your community every day.
Yeah. And you said if we had the funding. So all the money that you're spending now, that $2.5 million, that's all coming to us from the state, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I don't think the state's gonna give us a whole lot more money. We're hoping they continue to fund safer communities. I guess as we roll into budget season, it would be helpful for us to know what that bill looks like so that we can consider that in the city, contribution, if you will, to Portsmouth United in the list of priorities that we have for everything that is coming in for the budget.
Yep.
So it'd be helpful to know what that number is, and so we can factor that into budget considerations. There's an event coming up Friday at lunchtime for survivor healing. Can you talk about that event, please?
Yes. So when we look at our CVI ecosystem in the city of Portsmouth, one of the gaps, I talked about crisis response. The other blaring gap is that there isn't a ton of peer support for people who have lost individuals to gun violence. So we have someone coming down who loves the city as much as I do, I guess, who just said she's going to come down, help us figure out how to build a peer support system within our city. So she's going to come down, talk through that, talk about the importance of having peer-led survivor groups, and then from there we're going to start a build-out. I'll be talking to Chief Jenkins, I'll be talking to RVIs, I'll be talking to survivors, and figuring out, okay, in the city of Portsmouth, what works for us.
And who's invited?
So we have folks actually coming from other cities too, but because of the limits on having everyone on city council there, I made sure I invited you and Councilman Tillage for the tie to the Crime Commission, and then Mayor Glover is invited, kind of like we're trying to separate it out so that y'all aren't there at the same time.
Okay. Yeah, so thanks, Ms. Matthews. So Chief, back to your crime stat brief. So the assault number that you showed is headed down in the right direction, but I think maybe the last couple of quarterly briefs, there was a separate category inside that, aggravated assaults, that was actually going up. And I wonder if that trend is inside the assault number coming down, if aggravated assault is still trending up, and there's a place I'm going, but
Yeah, so our as it goes right now, year to date, we have not had as many year to date as we had comparison. And again, the aggravated assault is anything stabbing, shooting, any breaking of the skin is considered an aggravated assault. So our numbers right now are not where they were in that aspect. But again, we've had a couple of serious incidents. We had a 13-year-old shoot his father in Churchland, right? These are the things that we, when we talk, we need to talk honest.
yeah.
And we need to put some clarity in these things that happen. Oh, we had this happen. Well, there's something that was behind that, and that's what I've kind of been trying to add some clarity into that, because to make sure that people understand some of these things are preventable, and they're not just random acts that folks are just consider that we got folks just running around shooting people arbitrarily in the city. That's not the fact. Most of the folks that are engaged in things like this are targets for a particular reason, and that is the part that we're trying to wrap our hands around. That is the part that the interrupters are helping us with. So again, this is why this is hard standing here, because if you ask me the day after New Year's to do the same thing, this whole conversation would have been different. You're asking me now 4 homicides into January, and we did have a very good year in comparison. But again, it's hard to have a conversation like that about where we've come when we're dealing with this right now.
Yeah.
So again, just context to just the overall conversation.
Okay, I appreciate that. And the reason I ask about aggravated assault, so the mayor and I were invited over to the Navy Hospital last week. They were briefing Senator Kane on healthcare issues, and one of the issues that they briefed on was the collaboration between the hospital and the community with their level 2 trauma care. During that discussion, they told Senator Kane, and it's the first time I heard the number, 557 trauma cases went from the community into the Navy Hospital last year. 557. Now, so led me to ask, well, gee, with the fact that we have trauma care available right here means that there's probably somebody that got shot or stabbed that would have expired in the ambulance in the downtown tunnel on their way to Norfolk.
Right.
That didn't expire because we have this new collaboration. Do you guys at the hospital have a sense of how many lives you saved that otherwise might have expired? And it turns out that in their data keeping, they categorize the traumas in kind of several grades, and so they actually may have the ability to help us understand what this relationship really has translated to in terms of, of knocking the homicide rate down where maybe our rate would have been higher, except they helped to save some folks. But then they would show up as aggravated assaults instead of as homicides, which maybe explains why we were seeing the aggravated assault number going up at the same time as everything else was trending in the right direction.
Let me add one more thing to that, sir. And I want to add, so we had a lot of gunshot wounds that were undetermined, right? So a person who shoots themselves, whether it be accidentally or on purpose, we get the call, we go respond, and unless we're able to determine that, or they say I did it accidentally or whatever the case may be, even though all the evidence might point to that you actually trajectory of the bullet where you shot, one shell casing, we didn't hear any gunshot detection going off, nobody else called, every other factor that says you shot yourself, we still have to classify it as an aggravated assault because we don't have that. Just like, and again, for context, we had a shooting yesterday that ended up in Southside. Well, the guy didn't shoot himself in Southside, right? He says he was shot somewhere else in an area where we have gunshot detection. When the officers came to assist him, he gave us a false name. So the likelihood is he shot himself, but we have to carry this as an aggravated assault, and the community feels like, oh, there's one more person that got shot in the community when the gentleman shot himself. That's the reality of it.
Okay, thanks, Chief. Just one other thing. So you mentioned in your brief, Chief, that we're aiming to become a certified crime prevention city.
Yes, sir.
So what help do you need from us? You talked about getting out to civic leagues. I mean, we visit civic leagues, so there's messaging that we can help you carry out into the community. You need to give us the talking points to engage the people that need to engage in order for us to be successful.
Yes, sir. So I will get those talking points to you within the next week. So you can begin having those conversations and what the Certified Crime Prevention City is, what that will do for us as a city, so that everybody will understand that, and those who want to be involved have an opportunity to do so.
Okay, thanks.
Councilman Dodson, and then Vice Mayor, and then Councilwoman Thomas.
Thank you, sir. I don't know whether this question is for you or for the city manager, but if there's a breakdown available in some of these categories to help understand them a little better, is there any way I could get a report on that? I'd love to see assault, burglary, vandalism, and larceny. If that data has been collected, to break those into subcategories for understanding.
Can that list again, please?
Assault, burglary, vandalism, larceny.
Yes.
You have a time frame on that, sir?
No, sir, at your convenience.
No, time frame. How far do you want it out?
The time that you want the information.
12 months,
dated.
36 months?
What's convenient for you? 6 to 12 months, whatever's convenient for you.
Okay. Citywide?
Yes, sir. However you have it stacked, I don't want you to put too
Chief,
much
is that
out for
broken
it.
down in your dashboard?
We can pull that out. And it may be part of the city front facing, again, without me just looking
Yeah.
at it, but I want to be able to pull it from you.
And that might help to show me how to do that.
Yes, sir. All right.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Moody.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, thank you for the presentation. Thank you, Ms. Matthews. On the crime report, I think it would be good to have a comparison with the region on how our stats look compared to, our sister cities. That might be something you consider in the future. And Ms. Matthews, on the CVI program, I think that's really a misunderstood program, and I think we need to do a better job of communicating on what the expectation is. You know, when you think of intervention, you think of changing the outcome of something. So I don't know, even in my mind, I don't know, is this a reactionary group, or is it a group that's proactive? In other words, are they there to prevent something? Are they there to react something, like the example you pointed out with one of the team members communicating to the mother what had happened? That's understandable, and I could see that role, but what's the proactive part? And how many members on a team, and are they deployed as a team? Are they deployed as individuals? And also, what does their training consist of? So it's a lot, and I'm asking these questions, and a lot of people in the community, when they hear that term mentioned at a council meeting, they have no idea. They think this is a group that goes in and breaks up a fight or breaks up a gang. So I think we need to really define and communicate better on what their role is and what the expectation is of the CVI teams.
So there's 10 total. We have a lead, and then there's a lead and a floater, and then we have 2 VIs per focus area. And
So let me stop you right there. You say there's 10. Is that 10 members to the team?
10 on the team.
Okay.
1 is a lead and 1 is a floater, and then the other 8 are by 2 in the focus areas, and they are always paired up. And their work is not reactive. Is where they're doing work. We're trying to mitigate and mediate. We're trying to stop things before it occurs. Now, in a situation where there's a homicide and they're deployed, even when they're on site, all the work they're trying to do is to prevent something else from happening. It's prevention, intervention work. And they do that by building relationships with people in the community. I can tell you, just this week, we've had situations where people knew some folks and was able to say, hey, let me talk to you about this. Let's come up with another plan. Let's go somewhere and sit down and talk through this, right? Buying us time. When people have that 10 seconds of need to make a decision, they're helping us buy time so that we can really do good intervention work. So they're at the front part of that and on the back end of that, if that makes any sense. Sometimes they're working across sites. We may have someone who is in Southside, but they may have a relationship with somebody in Prentice Park, and something is really about to pop off. That person in Prentice Park can go talk to that person in Southside, and then do that work and then hand it off to the people in Prentice Park just based on relationships. So their work is building relationships, building trust in the community. The people that we have on our team have a basis of trust in the community already. They're credible in their communities. Some people are credible throughout all the neighborhoods, but they're most credible in this neighborhood, so that's why they're there.
Their primary focus is prevention and intervention.
Yes.
That is their primary job, to be in these neighborhoods and do what they can when they hear of something that's going on, when they see something on social media, to insert themselves into that and see if they can stop it from escalating into something else. That is their primary focus. And again, I think what you said does deserve some maybe we need to bring a training specifically for council for what that looks like. I think that would be a good idea, and then maybe we need to put together some community training that we can put online or whatever, so people understand what it exactly is what we're doing. Because part of this is when we have these parents, guardians, or folks who I'm looking for some resources and I just don't know where to find them. That violence interrupter is probably your first place that you turn, because they have the information that we're looking for. The Portsmouth United app that the Bloomberg study said we should put together, well, we now have that.
That's right.
Portsmouth United put it together, got it up and running. It will be the staple meal place for all of our resources and information. But that violence interrupter can now help us put that out there, because everything we put on the city website, folks don't look at. Everything we put on the police department website, they don't look at. But those relationships that they have with other folks, that sometimes has more power than anything that we can do. I can tell someone not to do something and give them all the reasons in the world not to do it. But because I said it and because I'm wearing this uniform, it's a barrier. Somebody else can come along and say the very same thing that looks like them, dresses like them, acts like them, talks like them, and it's received better. I don't care how it gets out there, as long as it gets there. And if it stops one person in this city from being hurt or from losing their life, it was worth the investment. Remember a presentation a few months ago, we talked about every death in this city cost us $4.17 million.
That's right.
So that is what we're talking about long term. Every death cost us $4 million.
My other question, and my last question about the CVI, if I'm a resident in the community, how do I get in touch with a team member? What's that process look like?
So we are working on having base sites in our site, so base locations in our sites. In London Oaks, we're getting an apartment. There's going to be a base site, so each neighborhood is going to have a hub where if you need to reach your VI, if you don't see them in the community, this is the hub where you will come to. Also on the app, there's a feature on how to reach out to your community, pretty much your community liaison, your VI. So there's multiple ways for them to get in touch. They all have email addresses. So there's going to be that, and then they all have badges, which we just ordered them. So when they get here, we're going to have like a QR code for people to be able to scan it, and it'll go straight to their email. So there's multiple ways, because their job is to be out. Really, they're not supposed to be inside. They're supposed to be outside, connecting with the community. I did want to speak to the training question. Well, the first thing I want to say is the MC&T contract includes training for the community and for city council on what is CVI and what's the violence interruption program look like, and why and how it's supposed to operate. So that is phase 1 of that contract. So that's already in the works. As far as training for our VIs, Intervention Strategy Group is providing an additional layer of training for our VI team, and it's intensive embedded. So it means, I'll give you an example. On Friday night, that person who is providing that service was on Zoom calls, was giving them guidance, was saying, okay, this is how you do this is how you do that, and then they are on the ground with them physically here twice for 2 weeks at a time every month, on the ground, making sure that the program is running smoothly, helping them with reporting and all the things in between. Another example would be while we are building this program out, something that's really important is data. We want to know if something was mediated. We want to be able to say, this is what was mediated. It won't have names, so we'll be able to explain it in a way we can document it. RTA was with them, showing them how do you report this out. And what they were able to do was send me a report at the end of the night. This is what we did, this is who did what. So there's a lot that goes into their training. There's classroom training, but majority happens on the ground.
So these base stations are, they're not established yet, is that?
We're working on it. And some of it is negotiating some of the pricing down on some of these places, so that it can stay within budget.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're working on having hubs for them, especially it's cold right now. They were outside, they've been outside working, they've been doing some canvassing work in some of our communities. So it's nice to have a hub, and the hubs are not gonna just be a hub for them, it's also a hub for the community. So when we get these spaces, we're like putting resources in these spaces. There's gonna be a computer for people or a set of computers for people to apply for jobs, get other resources, get other city resources. There's going to be somewhere for youth to play games and have that time to just be a kid in their neighborhood. And there's going to be a mediation space as well. There'll be a room that's there so that if we need to do a mediation, it's right there. There's also going to be a central hub that is a neutral hub. If we ever need to mediate between neighborhoods, we have a collaboration with Lovemore 757. We're going to use their space to mediate between neighborhoods.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Thomas, maybe you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Ms. Matthews, for two really great presentations to dive a little deeper. And I want to echo what Vice Mayor Moody just said. I think the training on the CVI is definitely necessary to get just our understanding, the community understanding of how that works. And Ms. Matthews, it was great just to hear you talk about the hubs. That's a similar idea. I talked about the manager, and Chief, I mentioned this to you when I first got on council about more so community police precincts. So it sounds like this is something that could serve in that capacity, not necessarily with the police, but individual, I'll call it safe havens in those communities that need it, high risk, high need communities that need it, where they know they can go get services. I want to recommend also that maybe we even partner with the city to have some type of social services or behavioral health care services there as a resource possibility too. And so that'll lead me to my question. How are we partnering, or how is Portsmouth United partnering with outside services? I know we have, you mentioned the Edward Brown Foundation that partners with the schools. And there's partnerships with other juvenile detention centers, Friends of the Juvenile Court, but what other partnerships in terms of mental health needs? We have a lot of services within the city. How are we partnering to fill the gaps and to address the needs there?
So a lot of those partnerships are happening with the groups that are funded. So I'll give you some examples. Community of Change is really our primary kind of like point of contact with the mental health component. Mm-hmm. Also Footprint Foundation. Edward Brown Foundation does some work with mental health as well. So we partner with them in that way. And sometimes when we're working with a family, we will let the family choose between the options that we have. Or sometimes it's just us helping them tap into the resources they already have and helping them figure out how to get to those services. So it just really depends. Mm-hmm. As far as our collaborations within the city, there's times when we do tap those resources, and there's times when we tap those resources and they don't have the manpower to be able to keep up with, because a lot of times our stuff is like, we need it now. Like when you're working with at-risk, high-risk, there's no, I have to get back to you next week. It's urgent. It's like, we have to get this now. Mm-hmm. So sometimes that can be a barrier.
And maybe this is a question for Mr. Carter, is our behavioral health care and social services, are they aware of the work and the services that Portsmouth United is providing? And are they addressing that collaboration are we addressing that collaboration on our side? I hear what you're saying, that your partners have partnerships already, but separately, but do we have, is there a meeting of the minds? I'm trying to say, are we not working in silos, which I think can become an issue as we're trying to address this issue in our city.
Yeah, so I can answer a lot of that. So our fellow department heads and counterparts are aware of Portsmouth United. And again, there are a number of things that they're like Parks and Rec. Parks and Rec works with us hand in hand with a lot of our initiatives already. Social services, there are several things like, for instance, I'll give you another example. Our economic development, early on there was several opportunities that we had where individuals were looking for jobs, and the conversation was, hey, come down to economic development, we'll go ahead and help you get signed up. Well, in partnership with Portsmouth United and through some shifts, we were able to shift that and start taking those economic development initiatives and the jobs out to the community, and those things were funded through Portsmouth United to get the other resources that were out there.
Okay.
There's still potential for a lot of gaps to be filled. Again, you have to remember, we're still technically in our infancy. And again, this is why this is important, just for a call for everybody to understand that, you know, there's a bigger part of this than just the police. Everybody's got a part in this public safety conversation. And you know, if we're sitting back waiting for someone to come knock on your door and say, hey, do you want to get involved? Nobody has time for that. We're telling you that we're here, we're looking for people, we need folks, and we have to continue to push that out, the information out there, and we're going to continue to work with Peter and my department heads with getting that information out. And again, they would benefit for some training too. You have to kind of sometimes see yourself in an initiative for you to get involved, and I think that's part of the challenge with some of this, because I'm asking for you to check your ego at the door.
Yeah, there's some opportunity there, I think. And then also in terms of like the schools, I know again, like their incident today, you know, a message went out about a gun being in one of our schools, and so how would the violence intervention team kind of partner with our schools about, I guess, anything that might have led to that, follow-up, preventing, like how does that, can you kind of lead me through how that process will work?
So that's a process that we need to iron out. Ms. Jones with Student Support Services, we work pretty closely because she works closely with Edward Brown Foundation, and they're trying to expand that program. So we've been working on some expansion things, but we need to figure out how to get that information over, because the barrier for some of my VIs is that they couldn't pass a background check to get in the school. What's most effective is them being able to have a presence in the school during school hours, but the barrier is that background check piece. So my thought process now is partnering with Edward Brown Foundation to get information, because remember I had talked about that prevention, intervention, treatment. Edward Brown Foundation is prevention. If they hear something like that happens in the school, there's nothing stopping them from making that referral to an organization like Give Back to the Block to intervene. And a lot of times Portsmouth is so connected. It's nothing for someone to know someone's mom, someone's grandma, someone's aunt, to be able to get to the person who needs that support. But to formalize that is going to take a lot of advocacy from people in this room to be able to say, okay, how can we meet in the middle about this? Because really the most effective way is for them to have some sort of presence in the school during the school day.
And I understand the barrier of that coming from the school board and state law, but I also want to say there's and it's needed, because it's some type of partnership needed, because a lot of times, you know, being in the schools, guidance counselors, teachers, they hear a lot as well up front about what's going on. So even if they have an avenue of knowing how to pass information along to the violence interrupters or intervention teams, that could even be helpful if it's outside of the school. But just a pathway, a process of communication pass along would be helpful, even if it's the barrier right now is being in the school. I just think that, the violence intervention teams, they're in the communities, but you have those teachers, educators, staff, bus drivers that are also in the community every day, and somehow a meeting of the minds or communication sharing is definitely needed. So I don't know. Yes.
Yeah, if I could, I would think that would be a great topic for you all to have during your retreat, when you meet with the school board, to have a conversation about CVI, what we're doing on this side. We have a meeting every Thursday that is open to the public.
That's right.
And again, every Thursday, and even to encourage, we actually serve a meal for folks to come. So, it's not; these are not things we're doing behind closed doors. We want folks to come out and bring their ideas and understand what's going on. We often provide lots of training and information. A lot of the groups, when they come, they profile what programs or initiatives they have coming up, where they're trying to solicit support from. We do have some folks that are already working in the schools with some of their programs, and that's not Edward Brown Foundation. So again, it's one of those things we have to continue. Messaging it can't be just a one-time thing. It has to be a constant over and over again. So I would hope
That's a good topic.
if you could get that on there, it'd be great.
And then last thing, Mayor, sorry. Thank you, Chief. I just want to add to Councilman Dotson's request on the crime report data. I'm not sure how you were requesting it broken down, but do you have demographic data that we can get this broken down by, or no?
What do you need, ma'am?
Like any type of demographic data that we can drill down to.
Okay, age, race.
Yeah, all that.
Okay.
Education, all that. Thank you.
I don't know that we'll be able to do
If you can, yeah,
education.
whatever is possible. Thank you.
Okay.
Councilwoman Bryan, you have the floor.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Ms. Williams. Thank you, Chief, for, again, 2 wonderful presentations.
Just to start a deeper
This
analysis.
program is new, certainly, but you guys have clearly made a lot of headway, and there's a lot of information that I picked up tonight that is very encouraging. Very interested in learning more about the domestic violence initiatives as they progress, the peer support also as that progresses, and certainly the intentional collaboration between your 23 community organizations working together. Like you gave us the example with the reading program and how they can work together. I think that's so empowering, and that's going to make the program continue to grow. So it sounds like you're doing a tremendous amount of work with tremendous goals to move us even farther forward next year. So that's wonderful. To the Chief's point about repetition and making progress that way, in another context, do you have a way of knowing the children and families who participated in Peace Week or the summer programming to re-engage them year after year so that it's a relationship that continues to build?
So we have some of that information from Peace Week for sure, because I required the organizations to do like sign-in sheets with emails.
Right.
We didn't replicate that for the summer, but I can always go back and reach out to those organizations that were funded and request that.
Yeah, I think a lot of mentorship grows with that repetition and those relationships that grow. So that would be an interesting path to follow also. Another question related to the CVIs, and they're here present tonight,
Yes,
right?
they are, and
Can we?
Yes.
Yeah, we were going to acknowledge
Okay,
that.
okay.
We're going to acknowledge.
Wonderful, good. Wanted to ask you if any surrounding localities also have community violence interrupters at this stage, and whether we have some cross communication, or is it too much? Are we too much in our infancy for that, or as we talk about violence spilling over from communities is?
No, so that's the good part about this. And when you're, so every city in Hampton Roads does not have a CVI, but City of Norfolk does, and there is communication between those two, and that's good. We spent a lot of time between the two cities learning from each other. We also from in the city of Hampton, and with some of the initiatives that they're doing to build out their ecosystem over there and in Newport News. So again, there is a lot of information that we're sharing and mistakes that we're not trying to make that somebody else made. and we're actually trying to work and bring an actual conference here to Portsmouth that will bring a collection from across the state to have that conversation about, you know, again, it's an educational thing for everybody. This is what CVI is. This is what, you know, it's not new, it's just new to Virginia. It's new to Hampton Roads. And some of those localities that have been doing this, and ours looks a little bit different because ours is directly tied to the city and police department. Again, and in spite of that, we've had some success. And so we're continuing to push forward and bonding relationships, you know, with folks that, you know, honestly were probably unlikely before. So those are good. It's a good start. And, you know, again, I'm optimistic about that.
Yeah, I think our interest here, even tonight, really reflects what you're going to see from the community as this continues to grow and as the stories start to come out. And this is a great story to tell. And part of, I think, a lot of what Portsmouth United, the stories of what you all are doing, we need to do a good job of sharing those so that people are aware, because again, this is all relatively new. So, but hearing this tonight and knowing that these new programs are coming down the line, it would be really wonderful for us to be able to share that in the communities to help you all get that story out and tell the story for you.
Anyone else? Well, Chief, Ms. Matthews, before we close this one out, I want to take a moment because I've advocated for this program and many others. I did want to ask about the app, and you can update me on the app because I want to see it live so I can touch it, feel it, and do my own little work with it. But I wanted to say to all of you all, if you could stand with our CVI. And I want to personally say, you know, as a point of matter, these folks out here are doing life-saving work. And I want to thank you on behalf of our city council for all the life-saving work that you are doing. You know, this is a comprehensive program that we brought about because we wanted to do the work in the community. And there's been a lot of work done. Daryl can tell you, we talked years ago about this vision. I met with Mr. DeGoat with the Brown Agency. We helped him get one of his first grants through Portsmouth General Hospital Foundation to do this work. I see Mr. Swinson over there in the back. I just want to let you guys know, keep doing the work. We need you to keep doing the work. We need you to be the eyes and the ears. You know, be safe out there. But we appreciate every effort that you put in. It doesn't always show up on the stat sheet. But I know we're going to get the conference here. Is that correct?
Yes.
The conference is coming. So be ready when the conference gets here. We've got folks coming in from Chicago, from Baltimore, from big cities, you know, Dallas, I mean, with answers. And we are going to provide answers. And we're going to do it the right way. And I want to commend each and every one of you for being out there on call, on duty. I know you're not a member of the police department, but you are a member of this community, and you care. And that's all that matters. So on behalf of a grateful city council, I'll give you a round.
Yeah, I think that. So this is what the app looks like. If you have an Android, go through the Play Store. If you go to Portsmouth Buzz, and you can actually download it on your.
Does it come on an iPhone? I don't
Well,
know.
iPhone is an inferior phone.
What?
Yeah.
But no. So
Believe what the chief said.
I'm not hearing that.
we are working with Apple now to get that added to their Play Store. I think we had some hurdles we had to cross first.
Okay.
So the web address is Portsmouth Buzz. We couldn't get Portsmouth United because of the soccer team.
Right. They have
But
that name.
yeah,
That's
we
right.
couldn't
Trademark.
get that. Yeah, so we got Portsmouth Buzz, and again, the intent behind this is the information that people want and need to know is there.
Yes.
Resources where you can get those things, and we're going to continue to build this out. So again, it is available, and again, just we're making some progress.
Councilman Tillett, sir, you have the floor.
So I love the website. Only thing I would say is, can we get a picture of Portsmouth?
Yeah.
And But other than that, it's been
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We gotta talk to Lee about that.
We gotta talk to, look, we gotta talk to the person who developed the app.
Yeah.
Yes.
That will be.
We can get that
ASAP.
fixed. It'll be fixed by this time next week. Thanks so much. If I could, I wanted to, while we were here, we were talking about the VI program, I wanted to thank Daryl Redmond. He's played a huge role in getting this team off the ground. He's the VI lead.
And last night, the chief and I attended, so this was the second domestic violence event. And I would encourage any of my colleagues or anyone in the city, if you really want to know what's happening in the lives of people, particularly women and families. The first one wasn't as well attended, but last night at St. Mark Deliverance Center with Pastor Provo, we had a beautiful group of ladies and individuals that were there, and they told their own personal stories. And I got to tell y'all, there are a lot of people out here hurting that you might not think are hurting. Yeah. It's important us to just understand we can't fix all the problems of a community, but what we can do collectively is support Portsmouth United, support the CVIs, support the efforts that we're putting in, because it is about public safety. It is about creating an environment where our families can grow up and have the same opportunities and dreams and hopes, and they can get there. And so I'm excited about this. I wasn't expecting it to happen overnight. I think we're on track, Mr. Carter.
Absolutely.
And Chief Jenkins. I think if you look at the last couple of years and under the leadership of some of our folks on council with the crime and violence reduction team, we're making progress. And so let's just keep making progress. Let's keep being visible. Let's show up for these events, and so we can learn. And we're going to put that in place, as I heard tonight. So thank you all for this wonderful opportunity to learn about how we're improving our public safety.
Yeah.
Ms. Carter.
We often say that government can't solve every problem, and nowhere is that more true than where we're trying to deal with violence prevention. What we reviewed today isn't a government program, it's a bridge. It's the proof that we're moving in the right direction. To the staff and to the partners who are doing the work on the streets, we see you and we hear you and we value you. You're building trust where it has been broken and offering hope where it has been scarce. I want to thank the team for the work that you guys have done, Ms. Matthews, Chief Jenkins, for the vision, for the work. Wouldn't have happened without you. And I can't say because of that progress, though, what I need everybody to understand is the progress for the work that these people are doing, it's not a straight line.
No.
There's going to be some twists, some turns, some setbacks. But the real thing is we are collectively trying to address something in our community that need to be addressed. And the more people that's involved, the better we're going to be. Amen. No matter what that involvement is. Don't sit around and wait for somebody to knock on your door like they talked about. Hey, there's work to be done. And I guarantee there's enough work to go around for everybody. So don't feel like you've missed out. If you haven't got involved yet, there is still time.
Yeah.
So please, again, thank you guys. Thank you, Violence Interrupters. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Portsmouth, for allowing this program to move forward.
Yeah. All right.
One more thing we want to talk about is the retreat. I reached out, got 4 items that the school has listed as important to them to talk about. Those are CIP projects, the plan for the K-8 school, the site plan, future development plans where we're trying to go in the city, and City Hall relocation are the 4 items that they provided. What I heard tonight was CVI and how they have some presence in the school is one of the things that was mentioned. Do we have other topics that this group would like to make sure that we get on the table and I'll share those topics with the school system so that we can come up with a collective agenda at the end.
Can you repeat the date for that meeting one more time that we agreed upon? Do we have that?
I think it's
February 21st, isn't
February
it?
20 Okay, I know we kept throwing around different dates. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, that's a Saturday.
Councilman Hugo.
I don't think a time.
Yeah, so Mr. City Manager, I think what precipitated this whole conversation was the fact that we put together at the autumn retreat a collection of education, short, mid, and long-term goals.
Yes.
Without the benefit of having the school board in the room with us. And so it seems to me that starting off with that pillar, the education pillar, which includes the K through 8 school, it includes other CIP, it includes some other touch points between the city and the council and the school board and the school system, would, in my opinion, be a great place for us to start in terms of agendas, because in the end, if our short, mid, and long-term goals don't align with school board's short-term and long-term goals, then, at least as it pertains to education,
Right.
then we're never going to get there.
Okay.
Councilwoman Bryant.
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Carter, for giving us that list on behalf of the schools. I also had on my short list that definitely following our last meeting with the housing development that we voted to approve, that we need to talk about the partnership between schools and housing and how that is that they impact each other. A couple other things that I would like us to be talking about at the retreat and moving forward. We hear on our side a lot about workforce development and attend a lot of regional events related to workforce development. The conversation is escalating about our needs for workforce development in the very near future. So I do want to make sure that we're communicating that to our school partners and continuing to look for ways that we can make sure that they are attending some of these events with us to raise their awareness about what our needs will be down the line, and ways that we can support them, obviously, in not just having conversation, but really making sure that we're pulling kids into opportunities. So an example of that is our Economic Development Authority, our department with the workforce development team that they have.
Portsmouth at Work.
Yes, Portsmouth at Work recently brought in a group of high school seniors that were graduating early and had them in the building, and we talked about that at our liaison meeting, that our school board didn't really have an awareness that was happening, and that was a first-run program, so we can certainly make them aware as that goes forward if that's something that continues. But that conversation is looming large, and it seems that we need to make sure that's being translated to the school side.
How you say that in an agenda item? You said a lot. I just trying to capture it, you know.
Maybe some initial conversation about what we're hearing from regional partners about what workforce needs will be moving forward. That was a mouthful, but we can whittle it down, you and I, or with Councilman Hugo. Also had an interesting conversation recently in a similar vein about ways that community and regional organizations that offer resources, if we can get those across to the schools and make sure that they're sharing them within their network. And I know Councilwoman Thomas has raised this before, that when we get our kids' folders at the end of the day, there are flyers in there that we see, and we see them online, and we see them in the app, we see them in lots of different ways. Something like the Hampton Roads Alliance that might have opportunities that might be interesting to families, career development or certifications, that we hear a lot of that, and I'm not sure that that's getting through to our families within the city, and we can serve as a partner to help that information get across that line. I guess this might just look like ways that we can work better on joint communication. And that's something that we've kind of touched on a little bit, but I think would be helpful to explore more. The more that we are communicating opportunities to families that might be busy working, busy raising kids, and maybe not aware of some of the broader regional programs that we have access to in our travels, that we can certainly share that across that line.
Okay.
Councilwoman Thomas, and then Vice Mayor Moody.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Carter, just to add on to what Councilwoman Bryant said, I think if we had to make it an agenda item, to your point, I think it would be helpful for the school board to have a presentation of what they do and their community outreach, to your point, and then us also present what we're hearing from a regional standpoint, because we might be hearing the same thing, but we just might not know, from that collaboration. I do know that they have the executive director, for example, of the PACE Center, who is a part of a lot of these conversations regionally because of where her background came from. She was in Newport News as their CTE director, so she has a lot of partnerships, Ms. Outland. But again, the way that we cross paths and making sure that we're collaborating and that we're consistent with our message as one Portsmouth School Board and Council with our regional partners could be helpful. So I think a presentation from the school so that we can learn, and then a presentation from us on what we're hearing regionally, to Councilman Bryant's point, could be helpful. I think that's workforce development from the school side and the city side would be very helpful, because they're doing a lot of that work, but we don't know. I mean, I know I have the benefit coming from the school board, but as a city, we don't know. And so I think that, and same for us, we attend meetings and just learning how we can better partner. So those two, I wanted to add on to Councilman Bryant's point, and echo that for an agenda item as well.
Okay.
And then I'll start right there.
Mr. Moody, sir, you have the floor.
A couple of things. One would be collaboration on additional youth summer programs. I think that's extremely important. And the other thing is potential areas of collaboration with the city in purchasing and even in benefits. By benefits, I mean health insurance, things of that sort. I think we still have some separate pieces there. I don't know what's been done to explore those and seeing if it could be some economies of scale savings that would result in savings to our taxpayers.
Joint benefit plans?
Yeah.
Can I throw one item out? There's a local option sales tax discussion happening at the state level now. How do we feel about, and the school feel about that process?
Having as a topic?
Yes.
In other words, taxing authority for the school board?
No, there's a conversation at the state level now to add an additional tax for school CIP projects.
I think we need to understand it first before we start this dialogue.
Okay.
Maybe you can send the information around to everybody for what
Okay.
that is, and let's digest that and then have a dialogue.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
On that point, do we have collaboration with the schools on their legislative packet and the legislative items they're supporting? Because I'm not sure if that's one of their things they're supporting or not, so that might be a point of
I'll ask
conversation.
Tracy.
Okay, thank you.
Just bring that back, share that
I
with
will.
everyone, and that way we can
I'll give you
get,
some information.
we can get competent about it, because I generally like to see information and be able to digest it and talk amongst ourselves and get a real understanding before we get into the room.
Oh, absolutely.
And no one knows what we're talking about, and we spend 2 hours on it.
Cool.
Here.
Yes, sir.
I'd like us to see us address directly how do we improve relations
Okay.
for the future so we can avoid the mistakes of the past.
That's what the retreat is for.
No, but a one-time event doesn't do it.
On the floor, sir. So, Mr. Carter,
Yes, sir.
thank you, sir.
All right. I think I have enough things to go back to Dr. Briggs, and we'll massage these items and come up with an agenda and float those before. I'll also make sure I send information about that local option sales tax.
Yes.
So you guys understand how that process works and what our role would be if that actually gets passed.
Great.
My final thing for this evening, Mayor, is just a review of what is about to happen in the regular meeting. City's going to be asked to take action on 3 resolutions and 3 ordinances, primarily focused on economic development, process improvement, city council governance, efficiency, and acceptance of 3 grants.
Okay.
We have the Crawford Bay Cooperation Agreement, have the rules for consent agenda. We have 3 grants totaling $3,870 that we're going to ask you to consider. And finally, we have the resolution to adopt the pillars. That is it for this evening. Thank you guys for your time. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Mayor. So I think we also have a board and commission item tonight to appoint Attorney Stromberg to the SIPSA board. So
Is that on the agenda, Nita?
It doesn't, y'all just,
Just go ahead and do it right under
Just
boards
do
and
your
commissions,
first,
okay.
second, and
No,
then-
no, that's right. He just introduces the,
Right.
yes, we do.
okay.
Okay, we'll take that
I
up.
just have one thing.
The item submitted by council or boards and commissions.
No, sir. Tonight, because you all have speakers on the city manager report items.
All of them.
You will have to vote individually
Right.
tonight.
We'll have to adopt we'll have the agenda, adopt the, as you see under items submitted, we'll be adopting the resolution
Yes.
to amend the rules of order and procedure for doing the city manager's consent, report consent agenda, so that'll be under items submitted.
That has to occur every meeting?
No. Once you do this resolution, that just becomes part of the agenda.
Solidified, right, that will,
But we have a speaker signed up
yes.
tonight too.
For each, what do you mean, for each one?
Each one.
Sure. Well, we look forward to having our speakers speak.
Yes.
Everyone, everything is good for the order, and this meeting is adjourned. We'll see you at 7:00 p.m. Good meeting.